Welcome to 15-minute battles, where we demolish history's biggest conflicts in just 15 minutes. We dive deep into the world's most pivotal military clashes, from the ancient battlefields of Marathon to the complex strategies of modern warfare. The leaders, who were the legendary generals and forgotten heroes commanding the troops, and finally, the outcomes. If you love history, military strategy, and learning something new quickly, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another historic clash.
Imagine winning a battle so costly that it feels like a defeat. That's a Pyrrhic victory, a term given to us by one of history's most brilliant generals, King Pyrrhus of Epirus. He was a cousin of Alexander the Great, a military genius who came to Italy to challenge the rising power of Rome. For years, the battle for control of the Italian peninsula had been a bloody stalemate. Pyrrhus had won battles, but at a horrifying cost to his own army. By 275 BCE, exhausted and facing a relentless enemy, Pyrrhus prepared for one last decisive clash. This wasn't just another battle. It was a fight for the future of Italy, a showdown between the Greek phalanx and the Roman legion near a town ominously named Beneventum, or Ill Omen. This is the story of the battle that would end the Pyrrhic War and set Rome on its path to empire, the Battle of Beneventum. The conflict began when the Greek city-states of southern Italy, known as Magna Graecia, called for help. They were terrified of the expanding Roman Republic, a young, aggressive power that was swallowing up its neighbors. They turned to the most famous general of their time, Pyrrhus of Epirus. He arrived with a professional Hellenistic army, modeled after the one that had conquered the known world under Alexander. His force was a potent mix of disciplined infantry fighting in the Macedonian phalanx, elite cavalry, and his ultimate weapon, terrifying war elephants, the armored tanks of the ancient world. The Romans had never faced anything like it. In their first encounters, Pyrrhus's genius and his elephants gave him the edge. He defeated the Romans at Heraclea and again at Asculum. But these were not clean victories. The Roman legions, though beaten, inflicted staggering casualties on Pyrrhus's elite troops. After the Battle of Asculum, Pyrrhus famously remarked, "If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined." He had won the field, but he was losing the war. His best men were gone, and reinforcements were thousands of miles away across the sea. The Romans, on the other hand, could lose an army and simply raise another from their vast pool of citizen soldiers. This was a war of attrition, and Rome was winning. After a brief and ultimately fruitless campaign in Sicily, Pyrrhus returned to Italy for a final confrontation. The stage was set near Beneventum. Commanding the Roman forces was the consul Manius Curius Dentatus. The Roman army had evolved. They had learned from their defeats. Their legions were organized into flexible units called maniples, small, independent blocks of soldiers who could maneuver and adapt to the battlefield in ways Pyrrhus's rigid phalanx could not. They had faced the elephants before and were now developing countermeasures. The two armies were roughly equal in number, around 20,000 men each, but the momentum had shifted. The Romans were confident, fighting on home turf, and their morale was high. The battlefield itself would play a crucial role. The area around Beneventum was hilly and uneven, broken up by woods and rough ground. This was terrible terrain for Pyrrhus. His phalanx, a dense wall of men armed with 18-foot-long spears called ceresis, required flat, open ground to be effective. Any disruption to its formation would create fatal gaps. His cavalry and war elephants also needed space to charge and build momentum. The Roman consul, Curius Dentatus, knew this. He cleverly positioned his army to exploit the terrain, forcing Pyrrhus to fight on Roman terms. Before the main battle even began, things started to go wrong for Pyrrhus. He attempted a surprise night march to flank the Roman position, but his troops got lost in the dark woods. By the time they reached their objective, The sun was up. The element of surprise was gone, and his soldiers were exhausted. A preliminary skirmish broke out, and the Romans easily repulsed the tired Greek soldiers. In this initial clash, Pyrrhus lost several men, and crucially, 2 of his precious war elephants. It was a bad omen for the Greek king, a sign of poor coordination and fading fortune. Despite the setback, the main battle began. Pyrrhus launched his army forward. In the center, where the ground was flatter, his veteran phalanx did what it did best. It slammed into the Roman line and began to inexorably push it back. The sheer weight and discipline of the phalanx was, for a time, unstoppable. The Roman legionaries struggled to hold their ground against the forest of spears. For a moment, it seemed like Pyrrhus's tactical genius might snatch another victory from the jaws of defeat. But this is where the Roman flexibility made all the difference. While the Roman center was bending, it did not break. On the wings, where the terrain was more rugged, the Roman maniples excelled. They flowed around the Greek formations, attacking their vulnerable flanks. A section of the Greek army was pushed back, and the Romans relentlessly pursued them. But the decisive moment, the turning point of the entire war, came with the deployment of the elephants. Pyrrhus sent his remaining elephants charging forward to shatter the Roman line and create a decisive breakthrough. But the Romans were ready. They had spent years preparing for this exact moment. As the massive beasts thundered towards them, the legions opened their ranks to let them pass through, while specialized skirmishers unleashed hell. They launched a storm of javelins, but this time, many of the projectiles were on fire. They had wrapped the shafts in tar-soaked rags and lit them. These flaming spears rained down on the elephants. The animals, intelligent but prone to panic, were driven mad with pain and fear from the burns and wounds. The Romans had found the elephant's weakness. What happened next was a catastrophe for the Greek army. Instead of breaking the Roman lines, the terrified, wounded elephants turned around and stampeded. And where did they run? Straight back into the heart of their own army, crashing directly into the tightly packed ranks of the Greek phalanx. The very weapon that was meant to secure Pyrrhus's victory became the instrument of his downfall. The phalanx, so formidable from the front, was completely helpless against a threat from its own rear. The unstoppable wall of spears dissolved into chaos. The Roman legionaries seized the opportunity. With the phalanx broken and disorganized, the flexible Roman maniples surged forward, swarming into the gaps created by the rampaging elephants. They engaged the Greek soldiers in brutal, close-quarters combat. With a Roman short sword, the gladius was far superior to the long, unwieldy sarissa. The battle turned into a slaughter. The organized Greek army disintegrated into pockets of desperate men fighting for their lives, surrounded and cut down by the disciplined Romans. Pyrrhus, seeing his army collapsing around him, fought bravely to rally his men, but it was hopeless. His phalanx was shattered, his elephants were a liability, and his last great gamble had failed. The king of Epirus, the man who had humbled Rome twice, was forced to order a full retreat. He abandoned his fortified camp, his supplies, and his baggage, fleeing with only a fraction of his army back to the coastal city of Tarentum. The Battle of Beneventum was over. In honor of their stunning victory, the Romans renamed the town Beneventum, the place of the good omen. The consequences of this battle were immense. For Pyrrhus, it was the end of his Italian adventure. Exhausted by the constant fighting and the relentless attrition of the Romans, he withdrew all his forces from Italy and returned to Greece, where he would be killed in a street fight a few years later. His departure marked the end of any serious Greek threat to Roman dominance on the peninsula. For Rome, the victory was transformative. With Pyrrhus gone, Rome quickly consolidated its control over all of southern Italy, unifying the entire peninsula under its rule for the first time. More importantly, Beneventum was a massive boost to Rome's military reputation. They had faced one of the greatest Hellenistic generals, a successor to Alexander the Great, and had defeated him through resilience, adaptation, and superior organization. The world took notice. The victory at Beneventum proved that the Roman legion was more than a match for the Macedonian phalanx. It solidified Rome's status not just as an Italian power, but as a rising Mediterranean superpower. It was the battle that turned a regional republic into a future empire. Beneventum wasn't just a victory. It was Rome's graduation onto the world stage. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient history, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Until next time, stay curious.
And that wraps up today's 15-minute battle. If you want to master more moments of military history in less time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next 15-minute battle.